Okay, good morning and welcome to Just Daf It. Daf Yomi here. We're learning Yevamos. Today's daf is Daf Sadi Gimel, number 93. I hope you're enjoying the shir. We have a great shir for you today. We're going to be learning about can you make a kinyan on something that doesn't exist right now? It's going to exist in the future. If you trade in the stock market, there's a concept of futures contracts. You can make a deal that you're going to buy gold that's not yet mined yet, or you're going to buy gold in 30 days from now at the price that you're agreed upon now. There is a concept in the world of buying something that doesn't exist, right? I buy directly from a gold company. I buy gold. I agree that I'm going to buy such gold that's going to be mined. Or I go to a car manufacturer and I say I'm going to buy a car when it's manufactured. Or you go to a hamburger store and you say I'm going to buy a hamburger and they haven't made it yet. So, we see in the world there's a big concept of being other mach and davar shelo ba'olam. You're buying most of the things in the world. A lot of the things, you go to a custom-made suit, right? You buy a suit, right? The suit is not made yet. The kinyan takes effect, right? When you give them the cash, you give them up front. Sometimes you give it when it's done, but a lot of transactions in this world are that the thing that you're buying is not present when you buy it. So obviously, there should be a concept of makna davar shelo ba'olam. We'll have to get into that in Yud Ben Sion, technically, how we understand it. It seems like a Gemara, you can't make a kinyan. Meaning, if I commission someone to make a suit for me, a tailor-made suit, the best fabrics in the world, obviously, I could just, and the guy makes a suit. I could agree upon it, and then I could, renege on the sale and say I don't want it anymore. I'm not paying you, or give me my money back. I can't make a kinyan. It didn't exist. It didn't work. But there's obviously not true in the world. What about in Torah? Usually I like to understand the Torah through the world's eye, as opposed to other people in the frum world. They like to fit the world into the Torah. I like to fit the Torah into the world. I guess that's my motto. I fit the Torah into the world. Other people fit the world into the Torah. And I think that's a big problem when you put it in a little Jewish box. You take the whole world and you squish it into the Jewish box. That's a mistake. I think that the real way of going about it is to take the Torah and to fit it into the world. Try to synthesize it too, and that's the whole pshat. Yafa Torah and Derech Eretz. Let's get into it. Within the bottom of Tzadi Beis and Beis, about 4 lines from the bottom. Amalei Rish Lakish. Rish Lakish said to Rabbi Yochanan, "Lav the Kalsech Chavarabba Hava Minalach." Rabbi Yanai praised Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yanai said that the reason that of the Mishnah in Masechas Kiddushin, that a man says, "I'm going to be mekadesh a woman after Yavam does chalitza to you," and according to the Rabban, it doesn't take effect, is because there's no Tzias Kedushin by Yevamos. Yevamos no Tzias Kedushin says Tiyah in the pasuk. There's no Havaya, no Tzias Kedushin, and logically we would assume it's a mamzer, the child. So Rabbi Yochanan was praised by Rabbi Yanai. So Rish Lakish says, it wasn't that Rabbi Yanai praised you, I would have said a different shot in the Mishnah. Why doesn't it work? The Mishnah, the Rabban is Rabbi Akiva. Not because Yevamos is different than other arayos in the Torah. It's because it's a lav in the Torah. And Rabbi Akiva holds no decision Machayev lav. And Rabbi Akiva, it's more contest this. Rabbi Akiva, ki amar la la'achar sheyichalos lechivimech lishvisa ba'kidushi. If it's according to Rabbi Akiva, right? He says, I'm going to make you, I'm going to mekadesh you after the chalitza, right? It should work. Even though technically don't see the kedushin right now, Rabbi Akiva is the opinion person can make a kinyan on something that's not yet in the world, right? Can make the kinyan right now, and it'll take effect later on after the chalitza happens. This nan, how do you know? The Rebbe Akiva holds that this nan kona on the top of side of Gimel and Aleph kona mishani yosei lepicha ein sarach lahafer. A woman, right? She gets fed by her husband. Mizonos, he has to support her, feed her, get her, make sure she has what to eat. In turn, because the husband is obligated in that, he gets her ma'aseh yadeh, he gets her profits from anything labor that she does. So she says, I'm taking a neder that any my ma'aseh yadeh and whatever profits I earn should be a konam, should be usher, but the neder to your mouth. You can't get benefit from it. Ein sarach lahafer. Tanakama says the other thing mayfair. She has no right to do that because it doesn't belong to her. Kiva Omer Yafer Shematad Laviyosam and Aroila. Kiva says she can do that because technically right. She doesn't have the baila. She doesn't have the ownership over her ma'aseh adayim that already is given to the Baal. But if she does earn profits more than her mizonos, right? She's only obligated to repay his income, how much corresponding to how much he feeds her. If she's making, she's a doctor or she's a lawyer and she's making a big profit, right? So the extra money, that's more than what it takes to feed her. That goes to her. She belongs to her. So therefore, it could take effect. So you should do it hafara so the neder doesn't take effect. And you see that's the davar she'ein lo ba'al ha'olam because her profits weren't earned yet, right? She didn't earn her profits. She didn't go to work yet. She didn't get her paycheck yet. No, it's talking about a specific case where she says the konam extends to her hands, and therefore when she goes into work, right, and she uses her hands to to do brain surgery. She's a brain surgeon. So therefore, her hands are already in the world, right? She's going to earn profits based on her hands, her handiwork. But that exists in the world. So that's why. It's not because other machid davar shel olam. So even Rabbi Akiva would hold ain't the machid davar shel olam. Upliga the Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. This opinion that holds Rabbi Akiva says you can't be machid davar shel olam. Argues with Nachman bar Yitzchak. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Rav Huna k'Rav. Rav Huna has the same opinion as Rav. Rav k'Rabbi Yanai. Rav has the opinion of Rabbi Yanai. Rabbi Yanai k'Rabbi Chia. Rabbi Yanai corresponds to Rabbi Chia's view. Rabbi Chia Rabbi or Chia like Rabbi Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Lezer, and Yaakov, Rabbi Akiva. All these people hold the same thing. The Amar what? Other machid davar shel olam. A person could make a kinyan, you could make a transaction even though it didn't take effect yet, and it's binding. You can't go back on the deal. Rav Huna mahi. So I'm going to go through all the cases where we see that a person could be machid davar shel olam. And that would be the explanation of Rabbi Akiva that he has to do afara not because she said my hands are kadosh, because Adam could be machdish, she could be machdish, she can make a neder on davar shel olam. Therefore, you can do a kinyan on davar shel olam. Amocher Rav Huna mahi. This one amocher peil tzedakah lechavero. I have a tree. I'm going to sell you the fruits on my tree. Amar Rav Huna shelo bo la'olam. Right, the fruits that have not yet emerged. So until the fruits emerge, I can retract. I can go back and renege on the deal. Once the fruits come into existence, they grow from the tree. I can't renege on the deal because I made the kinyan I made before is chal, and it's chal. Obviously, it's not chal until the fruits actually come into the world. Once they come into the world, I can't go back on it. Rav Nachman argues on Rav Huna. He could because the deal is either. Most people would explain it's a mekach tos because he held the machid davar shel olam. Whereas it can't be machid davar shel olam. So the deal never took effect. So therefore, even after the fruits came into the world, you can renege on it. He said, Mitzvah Rav Nachman, the person he consummated the deal with takes the fruits after they grew and starts eating it, so you can't get repaid for that. There's two questions over here. First of all, why does he have to be choser? But if it's a mekach tos, if it's in the machid davar shel olam doesn't take effect at all, why does he have to say, I'm reneging on the deal? The deal is invalid to begin with. And second of all, obviously, this is problematic because after the fruits come into the world and he takes them, he doesn't have to pay him back. If the deal never went through, of course he has to pay him back. So we have to answer these two questions, and with this we'll understand, even though really technically process and the machid davar shel olam, it doesn't mean really you can't make a kinyan. Obviously, you see you can make a kinyan. It does take effect partially. We'll have to explain that more in Ben Sion. You don't want to miss it. Rav the Amar Rav Huna. Rav says like Rav Huna. Amar Rav. He says about a field, he's a real estate mogul, and he says, when I buy this field, when I buy this lot, I'm going to sell it to you. It should be retroactive. It should be nickness to you. It's nickness. It works when he buys it. It goes back retroactively the day when he bought it. When he bought it, it becomes the other person who agreed to it, even though they didn't buy it yet. Rabbi Yanai, Rabbi Chia, Rabbi Yanai, the Rabbi Yanai Havalei Arisa. Rabbi Yanai, where has he hold? In he had a certain sharecropper, a certain farmer who was working for him, a worker. The Hava Maisele Kinta the period called Mali Shabbos, he would bring him a barrel of apples, of fruits, every Erev Shabbos. It was Erev Shabbos. He was waiting for the basket of apples. Now, you can't take off Shumas and Maestros on Shabbos, therefore he was waiting for it so he could take off Shumas and Maestros. He didn't obviously pluck the apples from the tree yet. Asar Mipiri the Beise Alayu. So there he knew what to do. He knew he was going to bring it after Shkia, so he wanted to be able to eat it on Shabbos. Therefore, he took from apples in his house and he designated those as Shumas and Maestros to pater, to exempt the Shumas and Maestros that was coming to him on Shabbos from a sharecropper. Asa l'kamei Rabbi Chia, he came to Rabbi Chia, is this valid? Could I take off Shumas and Maestros on something that wasn't plucked from the tree yet? It wasn't Bola Olam. Amalei Shaper Avata, you did good, you could do it. The Sani Laman Tilmod Liyira Hashem Lokech Kol Yomim. You should learn to fear Hashem all the days. What's all the days? Elo Shabbos Yom Tovim. And include Shabbos and Yom Tov. What is this pasuk telling us? It's telling me that what? If I have payros, I can take Shumas and Maestros off those payros on Shabbos. Istra Kral Mishrei Tiltu D'Rabbanan. Right? This is only Tiltu D'Rabbanan. First of all, moving Tevel, right? If it's not Shumas and Maestros, I haven't taken off, it's Tevel, which is Muksa. And second of all, the Misakin, a Kri, take off Shumas and Maestros is only a Tikkun D'Rabbanan. It's not, you don't need a pasuk to tell me that's mutter. El Alav Ki Gavna must be telling me that what? That in this case where it's coming Shabbos and Yom Tov, to ensure that you have Oneg Shabbos and Oneg Yom Tov, you're allowed to take out Shumas and Maestros, even though it wasn't plucked from the tree on Erev Shabbos, and it's Chal. And if that's preparing for Shabbos, but they read for me a pasuk in the Torah that is like a reed that is like rotzotz, that is able to be broken very easily. So they showed me my dream that what I did was a wrong thing, that my deal was, a bad deal, it was broken. It wasn't telling him, based on this pasuk that you leaned on a staff, on a cane, made out of a reed that's about to break. So he said, no, it's referring to a different pasuk that it's talking about, even though it's a reed that's very breakable, it won't break, and flax that is very flammable, lo yichbena. It's very anti-flammable, meaning it goes out very easily. The fire doesn't last very long. It won't go out, even though it should go out. So you did a good thing. Rebbe, the Sanya, L'tasker Eved Aldon. How do your Rebbe holds person can mock Devar Shalom? It says in the pasuk in the Torah, L'tasker Eved Aldona, meaning if an Eved pasuk shas, an Eved runs away from somebody, you shouldn't return it. He runs to Eretz Yisrael. You shouldn't return it to his master. You can't return him back. He's freed once he leaves, especially if he moves to Eretz Yisrael. Heichi Dami. How does Rebbe live in the pasuk? I'm not. But it said the cost of lay. It's a different explanation of the pasuk, that when you agree to buy an Eved and you say, I'm going to buy you, when I purchase you from your owner, you're going to be set free. So he can't go back on the deal. When he buys him, he can't say, I'm not freeing you. Once the deal goes through, he buys him. He's automatically free. Reb Meir, even though he wasn't even own him at that point when he made the deal. Reb Meir Desnan, Omer Elisha, like the Mishnah we had in Kedusha. Now, Re'ad Mekudesh Li Lachash Es Gair, Lachash Es Gair, after the Geiras, Lachash is Shachar, Lachash is Shachar, after the Shichur of the Eved, Lachash Yimus Bailech, Lachash Shamos Achos, after your sister dies, after your husband dies, Lachash Yichsal Kivimech, after the Chalitza of your Yavam. And a Mekudeshes, the Chum hold, is not Mekudeshes. Reb Meir Omer Mekudesh, Reb Meir says Mekudeshes, obviously Reb Meir holds. These are things that are not Bala Olam. She wasn't a Jewish person. You're a Makadisher. She wasn't Bala Olam. She wasn't in the Parsha. You can't marry her. So, Kinyan does take effect, right? There's no Tzilas Kedushin with a Goy. or with an evet. It doesn't work, right? Still, it takes effect. Because the person can mach the darash level olam when he's megayer, then it takes effect. The Rabbanan doesn't be about Rabbanan Yaakov. The son of Yisrael came from Rabbanan Yaakov. Feel him. Amar peros aruga zutlush mi truma peros aruga mechubarim. Right. Also relevant to truma. He says, I'm going to take off truma from fruits that were separated, that were picked from the ground. They should pater the trumos that are still attached to the ground. Peros aruga mechubarim. Peros zutlushin. Really, you're not supposed to take off truma. You can't take off truma mice, so they're still attached to the ground. And you say, I'm going to use the ones attached to the ground to pater the ones that are already detached from the ground. Shaviu shlish, right? When they bring, I'm gonna take the trumas and maishos off when it grows to a third of its growth. That's the normal shear for being chayiv and trumas and maishos. V'yitalshu, and they become detached. Shaviu shlish v'nitlashu. Divar kayamim. It happens. They grow a third and then they're detached. So they're chayiv and trumas and maishos. So they are pottered. It was pottered or pottered. Rakiva does not. Rakiva we just quoted before. According to this understanding, the reason that he has to do afara is because it's chal, right? Her ma'aseh yadayim, her income that's more than her mizonos, it's chal, even though she didn't make that income yet. It's still chal the neder, and therefore he has to do afara, so it shouldn't be chal. Fine, that's the end of the discussion of Adam Machdav Olam. Pashas will be paskin Adam Machdav Olam, but there is a stipulation in that halacha, and we'll talk about it in Ben Sion. But Rav Sheshes, they asked Rav Sheshes, back to our Mishnah, right? We said in our Mishnah that a woman can rely on an Eid Echad to remarry, right? Her husband's dead, you can remarry someone. What about relying on the Eid Echad to marry his brother? Meaning she was married to a guy and they had no children. The Eid comes and says, your husband died. Now she's subject to Yibum with the brother, right? Can you rely on that Eid Echad not just to marry somebody else, also to allow to the Yavam? Or do we say he's not dead? So the Gemara says, and this is an Isra of Eishasach over here, right? Before we're talking about Eishasish, now we're talking Eishasach, right? Marrying your brother, right? Only if he's dead you can marry your brother's, the wife can marry her husband's brother. So her brother can marry his brother's wife. So the Gemara says, time of the Eid Echad. What's the reason the Eid Echad is Neman? Mishum the Mills David Eid Echad is not Neman in the Torah. Is it because this is fundamental? We're talking about the main reason Eid Echad is Neman, even though normally it's not Neman. It's the Mills David Legluye Lo Meshake, right? It's going to be revealed eventually. The husband's going to come back. If he's really alive, he's going to come back. So therefore, the Eid Echad wouldn't lie over here. So he has more Neman, has more believability, reliability than ever, but the normal circumstances. Here also, the husband is going to come back. Right? So therefore, you should believe. When she's getting remarried, she's not going to want to, right? She's going to want to search to make sure her husband really died. She'll do a thorough search. So therefore, we're going to rely on her search and the Eid Echad combined, because she doesn't want to have mamzerim. But that's when marrying somebody else. But her brother-in-law, right? So she likes him a lot, right? She's around him a lot. She likes him a lot. She realizes he's a special guy. So maybe she's not going to be so careful. She doesn't care so much. She won't get married right away to him. So therefore, she's not daikol mitzvah. We can't rely on the Eid Echad. Amrullah Rav Sheshes Tanisu. We have a proof from our Mishnah. Amrullah meis b'nei. The case in our Mishnah on Tzadi Bezim and Olive said, they said to her, your son died. And then your husband died, right? In which case, she'd be subject to Yibam, and it's Yavma. And then she did Yibam, and then they came back to her. Amrullah Achiluf Advarim. The opposite is true. First, your husband died, and then your son died, so there's no Kasha Yibam Chalitza. Teitze, Ba'avlad Rishon Achar, Mamzer. Now, based on this first Eidah, she married the Yavam, which is not, she's not allowed to do it technically. Deishasach, they had a child, that was the truth. Vlad Rishon Achar, Mamzer, the Vlad, whether they had the child before she finds out the true news or afterwards, right? Two people said, right, the first way, and two people said, no, it was the second way. Why are you relying on the second kat? They're more believable than the first kat? Can't be. But mamzer. Why should you say that it's a mamzer? It sounds like a mamzer vadai. It's a suffix mamzer, right? Trey v'trey is, they cancel each other out. So if she has a child from the Yavam, who's to say it's a mamzer? Who's to say she's why do you believe one over the other? Maybe it really was the truth that it was subject to Yibum. Really, first the son died and the husband died. Maybe the Mishnah really meant to say Safek Mamzer, and instead it said Mamzer, but it really meant to say Safek Mamzer. How the Tani Seifa, the end of the Mishnah says Arishon Mamzer Achron Eno Mamzer. Right, in a case where first the Edom come and say your husband died, and then they come and say your husband didn't die yet, he died after you married the other man. Eno Mamzer, so Achron Eno Mamzer. After, so if she continues to live with him after the second Edom, Eno Mamzer. But before the second Edom, we find that we believe the second Kadav Edom. We trust the second Eidim, and therefore the husband wasn't dead yet. So it was Eishasish. Mamina Davka Kasani. You see Mamzer over there as Davka. That's a real key to Eishasish. Mamzer. Allah Shamina Chad must be that. What's the case of the Mishnah? Obviously, the Mishnah is that she's relying on one Eid Echad. And the Eid Echad tells her your husband, first your son died, and then your husband died. So therefore you have Yibum. Time with Asu Beit Shachashua. And then what the two Eidim, why do they more believe than the first Eid Echad? Because there are two. The first one was only one. And the two Edom came and said, no, it was the opposite. First your husband died, and then the son died. So there's no Yibum Chalisa. Halav Haki Mehemet. If the second Edom didn't come, we could rely on the first Edom. So therefore you see that Eid Echad is Neman, even when it comes to allow Yibum over there. So you see, seemingly, that the reason that Eid Echad is Neman is because Milchad Avidila Gluye, it's going to be found out. So just like to be found out by marrying another man, Eishasish, marrying adultery, marrying another man, so to marrying the Yavam, we rely on the Eid Echad also, and we don't say a svara that maybe like she's not Daiko Mitzvah. It seems to be the svara of the Eid Echad is not because of Daiko Mitzvah, it's because Milsa Avidi Legluya. Of course, in the coming daf, we're going to have to talk more about this Nemanas of Eid Echad. Obviously, it's in supplement. Eid Echad is supplemented by Milsa David Lagluya is going to be found out eventually, or Daiko Mitzvah. Seems from the Gemara here we're rejecting this sort of Daiko Mitzvah. We'll get back to that later on in the coming dafim. Hope you enjoyed today's shir. See you in Yud Ben Sion. We'll discuss buying a bespoke suit. Can you renege on the deal or not? If you don't want to hear this, stay tuned. Bye.